in the backyard. I have part of the yard sectioned off to keep dogs out of part of the yard, and one of them had torn through part of the fence going after an animal or something a couple days ago. So I was doing some repair work and pressing down really hard on a wooden stake that holds the fence up, and I just heard a loud crack across my chest and realized instantly I just broke a rib, because I've done it many times. I've broken ribs, and so I knew instantly what happened, and just a fluke thing, you know.
Wow. How is it that you have managed to break your ribs many times?
I raced motocross most of my life, and I've broken ribs on this side, the side that I broke yesterday. I've broken ribs on this side. I came up with 6 times I could remember, but it could be more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still ride?
I ride on the street, but I don't do motocross anymore. I'm too old. If I were to fall on a supercross track these days, it'd probably kill me.
Yeah, right. I grew up riding in the dirt. My family owned a motocross magazine in Southern California back in the early 90s.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was president of a motocross track in Mississippi, and I grew up around it all the time, too, and ended up racing well into my mid-30s.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah, it's been quite a long time since I rode a motorcycle, actually. I haven't had a dirt bike in decades, and I'm your age, Ty. And and I haven't had a street bike in a long time either, but I'm actually more afraid to ride on the street than if I were to get on a bike and go out in the dirt, you know. But
the truth is, I've been feeling the same way lately, and it's actually my intention to finally sell my street bike as soon as the weather gets good around here again.
Yeah.
And I think my biking days are over. I just break bones too easily now, you know.
Yeah. Huh. So, okay, so anyway, with Guitar World, the piece that they wanted me to do with you, just sort of check in with you for what they call the tune-ups up in the front of the magazine.
Yeah.
And because I had pitched them, I had let them know that you had, well, as far as I understood, you have something coming out through Rat Pack Records.
Yeah, I've got a new solo album, and also the Jelly Jam, although it hasn't been announced yet, so I can't say the label yet, but the Jelly Jam, the side band I'm in with Rod Morgenstein and John Mayone,
right?
We've been making albums for many years, and we actually signed a new deal that's I wish I could tell you who, but I have to wait for them to make the announcement. But we do have a new record that's coming out soon, potentially at the end of May, on a new label. And so that's big news, because we're going to do our first tour as the Jelly Jam in the history of the band this late summer. And so we've got that going on. And I don't want to start any rumors or get anybody too excited about it, but King's X is talking, at least the most serious we have in a long time, about legitimate, real plans of potentially doing another album together. We're going to probably just try a couple songs first, and we've got a producer in mind, but we're going to wait on that too. But things are lining up to where potentially maybe we will be doing another album by the end of the year also. We'll see.
All right. But did you say by the middle of the year?
By the end of the year, we might be.
Okay.
The first thing we're going to do is go in the studio and do a couple of songs and work with the person we're wanting to work with and see how it goes for all of us.
Right.
And take it from there. But
right.
It's with the intention of seeing if things can work out so that we can move ahead and do an album.
Right. Well, actually, the first thing you're doing is going on tour starting next Thursday, right?
Yeah, going on tour with broken ribs again.
Uh-huh.
There was a tour about 3 tours back where I broke the same side, broke ribs 3 weeks before we left, so it wasn't quite as close as this time. But I've done tours wrapped up before.
Yeah.
It looks like once again.
Yeah. Wow. So you're going to be able to sing?
That's the thing I'm worried most about, because I can't really take a deep breath yet.
Yeah.
But that's about 10 days out, so I think I'll be able to wing it. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what's going to make it out first, the Jelly Jam record or your solo album?
Most likely the Jelly Jam, just because we're thinking about doing another 1 or 2 videos. We've already shot 2 videos on the album, but we, due to some things that were beyond our control between the label and myself, we came to a decision to hold off on the record, which was intended to be released November last year or so. But because of a couple things that happened that we didn't have control over, we decided to postpone the record till this year. And in doing so, I'm actually recording more songs and adding to the album, and there's also more info about that the label will be putting out soon, so I can't get into it too much, but we're just expanding the project a little bit.
Okay. And you said possibly like the end of May, you think?
Well, that's for Jelly Jam.
Right.
But as far as solo stuff, I'm having to. I'm recording a couple more songs,
okay.
And we're throwing around the idea of double album instead of single.
Oh, okay. And so when do you think that one might come out?
It's kind of going to depend on when I can finish the last 2 songs.
Yeah.
I've got two to go, which are finished all except for vocals. And I was going to try to finish them this week, but because of this injury, that kind of puts another wrench in it. So I may have to wait till I get back from tour to finish those 2 songs. But I know they're ready to go. We've got artwork. We've got basically everything's ready as soon as I can hand them the 2 songs.
Oh, okay. And so, assuming that, you're going on tour, you're not going to finish this before you go on tour, and you're on tour for a month, right, with King's X?
It's only about 2 weeks. We're doing, I think, 8 shows on the West Coast and then coming back. So I think I'm back during the second week of March, I think. And I should be able to finish it up, before the end of March. So
I see.
I would think no earlier than June would it be released, but that it'll be sometime in the second half of the year.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And then do you have plans to do solo touring?
I've talked about it with the guys in the band, and everybody's up for it. So yeah, I really would like to. We've only done 1 live show together, and we enjoyed it so much that we talked about when this record does finally go out, getting out there and doing some shows to legitimize it and play the record.
Right.
So yeah, I would love to, and if we can make everybody's schedules work, we're sure going to try to.
Where was the live show you played?
I'm sorry?
Where was the 1 live show that you played?
We did a show in Houston a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
And
okay.
It was just a one-time thing where we did it on a Saturday around noon, and it was kind of a strange gig. It wasn't like your normal, go to a show at night in a bar. We basically rented a bar, this really nice place in Tomball, Texas, which is in the Houston, area in the suburbs, and it was just such a cool place with a cool vibe that served food and everything that we literally rented the hall and put the show on ourselves and you know, made it a thing where we had prize giveaways and hangout time, and our band Xenophobe, which is an ambient side project I do with Wally Farkas from the Galactic Cowboys. He plays in my band, and we did our first Xenophobe show, and that opened for, you know, the other show.
Okay.
So we just made this whole event, and we called it Guitarnival, and only sold a certain amount of tickets, and packed the place out, and it was a blast. Total success. So we decided then that we would have to do it when an album comes out, you know, go out and do several shows.
Very cool. So who's in the band this time around?
It's me with Wally Farkas on guitar and vocals, a guy named Bill Walter on bass. He's a guy, really great player from Austin, and Darwin Keys on drums, who you may remember the band Push Monkey. He was with those guys, and he's still playing in the Houston area all the time. He's a great, fantastic drummer.
Okay. So that song that's in the video, the 1 minute and 15-second video that Rat Pack promotes, that's going to be on the new album, the Freight Train song?
Yeah, that's one of the new tunes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty killer, man. Very heavy.
Thanks. It's all about the rock on this album. It's very heavy rock in the vein of. I did an album years ago called Rock Garden that was the people tell me that's their favorite album, hands down, by 10-1 in general of anything I've ever done solo. And ever since then, I've kind of wanted to do another just straight ahead rock and roll album, and that's exactly what this one is. That's what Rat Pack wanted. It's where my head was at the moment. And so it's straight ahead rocking. It's the most 70s guitar in your face thing I've done in a while.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds rocking and heavy and somewhat 70s, but very cool. So, cool. What kind of gear are you favoring these days? What do you?
I've been using orange for the last couple of years.
Right.
At my main rig, I use the Crush, Pro, and it's believe it or not, it doesn't have tubes. It's a transistor amp, and but the reason I like it so much is the amp I used to use that was the really distinctive King's X tone. Was a Lab Series L5, which was also a transistor amp. And I know a lot of people have trouble playing transistor amps, but I actually prefer the attack to tone ratio of a lot of transistor amps over tubes sometimes. It just depends on the tone you're going for and what the part is. But when it comes to the heavy stuff, I really dig the transistor amps like the L5 and the Orange Crush. I think they slam and have a really good tight response, and so I can articulate heavy things and it comes out clear. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. And what kind of effects are you running?
I have a pretty simple effects set up. I use something called a Rook Royale at the front of my signal. And it has a boost in it and something called a rook with, basically, it's made by Mojo Hand Effects, and they had a pedal that really got some attention called the rook. That's a great kind of natural, real amp sounding pedal. And what I do is I combine the Rook Royale is a pedal they came out with that has the rook on one side and a little boost on the other side, and you can flip the switch to decide which goes before the other, routing wise and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really useful pedal for the super heavy parts, and for leads, I'll kick the boost in at least on a lot of leads. And I depend on it a lot. It's a great pedal. And then I go out of that into a Ultra Vibe, and it's an old Ultra Vibe that Sweet made for me, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. And it's a fantastic sounding pedal. It does a really good, Hendrixy univibey kind of thing, but it's the best sounding one of the pedal ones I've ever heard, and so it stays in the pedal board always. And then I run out of that into a Line 6 delay, that the green delay with where you can have 3 different settings and a tap delay button and all that kind of stuff. And I use it all night for different delay settings, and that's pretty much it. I go straight into the amp from there.
What is the delay pedal?
It's the green Line 6 delay.
Okay.
It's super, super popular, but I can't remember the model number.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just that standard green delay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a pretty simple board altogether.
It's the most simple setup I've gone out with since the beginning of King's X.
Really?
And really digging it, too, because it's just so much easier to use and pinpoint problems, if there is one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then what about your guitars? Is it the Guilfords these days?
I've been playing exclusively Les Pauls and Strats for about 2.5 to 3 years now. I still have Guilfords. I still have Guilfords, and I still love them. And we're talking about a new model we may do very soon.
Yeah.
And I still use them in the studio and everything. But I've started playing Les Pauls and Strats live because they make me play differently, and they seem to work better for me for King's X stuff.
Okay.
So I've just been kind of sticking with Pauls and Strats.
Why do you feel that they make you play differently?
Because I have to struggle on them a little bit.
Okay.
Which is something that was pointed out to me by Doug on tour in Europe. What happened is we were on tour in Europe, and someone gave me a guitar that I had never played before, and it was, the knobs were in different spots, the pickup selector was in a different place, the knobs were hard to turn, and I usually have very easy to turn knobs so that I can adjust volume on the fly quickly. And everything about this guitar made it difficult for me to do any of the things I rely on. And It's kind of hard to play it. But Doug said, man, I would love for you to play that thing tonight. And I wanted to because it looked so cool. I thought, oh, what the heck? It's only one night. So and this was in France somewhere. And I played it. It's a VGA, by the way. It was a black VGA guitar. And I forgot it's their black rock and roll guitar from about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So anyway, I played it that night, and I felt like I was riding a bull that had control of me and that I could not rein in all night. There were problems with feedback. There were, just everything, and it forced me to have to do different leads because I couldn't do the ones that were easy to do on the Guilford. And somebody recorded the show. And when I heard the show back, and we had been listening to live shows, we learned from it. And
wait, Ty, I lost you there for a minute. You said we had been recording live shows?
Yeah, we had been listening to ourselves every night, recording shows as much as possible, just because we like to learn from it. When we hate hearing ourselves. When we hear ourselves, we hear what's wrong, but it helps us to work on it. So we play stuff back a lot. Well, we played this show back, and I was almost afraid to hear the guitar parts. And the truth of the matter was, it was the best guitar playing I had done the whole tour by far. And Doug and Jerry both thought it was, just so much better than normal. And I realized that only happens when I'm having to fight with the guitar to get it reined in. And I had just gotten comfortable on the Guilfords because they play so easy that I was just doing these leads that had begun to lose feeling and everything just because they were too easy to play and I was going too fast and, all that kind of stuff. And I realized the magic's in the fight. I kind of, when I started playing Les Pauls again immediately after that, for that reason, I got back in touch with things that I had forgotten about as a young player. And that is that I have always gravitated toward things that were more difficult to play, more difficult to rein in. And I just had forgotten that somewhere along the way. And so I intentionally switch guitars a lot now. I mean, like on this upcoming tour, I'm playing a Strat, and the Strat is on the road already, and I'm not going to even practice with it, and that's on purpose. I'm playing other things to get used. I'm getting my fingers ready by playing some other guitars, and then I'll jump on that Strat when we, do the shows, and it will be a struggle, and that's on purpose.
Yeah. I see the logic in that. So now, is this Strat wired the way your old Strats used to be, the Elite?
No. The Elites are a bit problematic in that they are one of the most microphonic guitar pickups that have ever been made. I mean, to the point that literally on a couple of King's X songs, there are parts on the first 4 albums where there's some like telephone distorted voice in the background, and it's me actually talking into the pickups. That's how microphonic they were. So that being said, you show up at a venue that has any type of old wiring or RF signal problems of any kind, depending on what's surrounding the building, and sometimes the Elites will have a hum that is every bit as loud as a wide open power cord on the guitar, so it makes them, useless in a lot of venues. Yeah. So I quit using the Elite for that reason. I just got tired of never knowing when I was going to be able to use it. I just could never depend on it because it was just so easy. So nowadays I just play some regular Strat pickups that aren't nearly as microphonic. They aren't as hot, but I just use the root boost pedal to help compensate to get it up to the kind of boost the Elite used to have. And that way I don't have noise,
Right. So what kind of, what model Strats are you going to be playing on this tour?
Believe it or not, I like the year 90 and 91 Mexican Strats.
Okay.
They are with rosewood necks. I just have been so lucky in finding Mexican Strats from that era that blow away every other Strat I've ever bought, including all of my American Strats. By the way, at this point, I don't even own an American Strat because I just never played them. I don't like them as much. And I don't know what it is, the difference in them, but they feel more clunky and don't have as good a tone. All of the ones that I've owned. And so now I've got a whole arsenal of Mexican Strats that I love. I love every one of them. And they're out on the road, and I've got one in the studio that I've been practicing with a little bit for this tour. But I'm not going to take that one with me. Yeah. It's set up a little different, and like I said, I want to have the surprise of the other guitar. Just have to grab it and go.
Yeah. I used to work for Fender in the 90s. I used to run their Fender Frontline magazine, and
cool.
So I spent some time down in the factory in Ensenada, Mexico. Yeah, they made some very nice guitars down there.
They're great. They're great.
Yeah.
The ones that I have are heavier. They're heavier wood, than any of the American ones I've owned, and have a super good, solid sustain. And that's why I like them. I don't know what happened with that batch, or some of those within that couple of years, but I have two of my heaviest Strats I've ever owned come from Mexico from that time period. And they are solid. I mean, they feel like a brick. They're great.
Yeah. So what kind of strings, what gauge strings do you use?
I use DRs, and I use their high beams, and I use 9 through 42.
Okay.
On all my guitars, no matter what the tuning.
What did you say about the type of string, the DR? What model was it?
The high beams.
Okay.
It's It's actually one of their older strings, but I've been using it for years. Using them for years. I just really dig them.
9 to 42, you said?
Yeah.
And then, where are you tuning these days?
I'm usually a full step down from normal tuning, and then playing that in drop tuning, which is drop C instead of drop D.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what we stay in that tuning, or we tune the C up to regular tuning and do it one full step down with normal tuning on some songs.
So the low E string is down a whole step.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole guitar is down a whole step, and then the low E string's down a whole step below that.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then occasionally we do 3 or 4 songs where I tune it back up to normal tuning, but the whole guitar stays one full step down.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. And do you do the same thing if you're playing a Les Paul?
Yeah, back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and same strings, 9 to 42 DRs?
Yep.
Okay. So what model Les Pauls are you using these days?
My favorite is a 50s Tribute, and which is amazing to me because the truth is I've never liked those big fat necks on Pauls before, because I grew up with a 76 Les Paul Custom, which has a smaller neck than the 50s Tributes, and so I was used to playing Pauls. That 76 was my main guitar for many years, and like when King's X first got together, and we were called The Edge actually in those days. That was my main guitar for years, was Les Paul. I started out with Paul in the band, and I like those necks, the 70s necks, especially 76 Custom. But recently, about 4 years ago, got my hands on a 50s Tribute just because it looked really beautiful to me, and it sounded great. But I thought the neck was just massive, and so I started playing it. And once again, it was one of those things where the stuff I was recording, the stuff that's coming out, I personally was liking it better than what I normally hear myself do. So it became my favorite guitar, and I toured with it a few times. And I've got a couple of 60s Tributes and 50s Tributes. I like going between the skinnier necks and the fat necks, and just kind of mixing it up a bit. The 50s Tributes have some really good hot, humbuckers in it, and the 60s Tributes have P90s in them. So I can kind of go between the different tones.
Cool. And then, sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty here. I have, when I do interviews, I'm using Skype, and I use a program that hooks into Skype to record. And sometimes it flashes little messages at me that concern me, So I use my phone as a backup, so I'm double recording our conversation, and the phone's kind of funny sometimes too. But anyway, I apologize. It distracts me a bit. But so, like I mentioned briefly, you and I are the same age. I've been playing guitar since the 70s. What keeps you motivated these days? What really turns you on these days?
That's a good question, because I don't know why I'm so amped at playing music right now, and have been on a roll for a few years now, where there's just been no lack of inspiration and no lack of drive. And I can't really tell you why, because I go in, at least historically, through all these years of playing, I usually feel pretty on for a couple of years, and then off for a couple of years, and then on again for a couple of years. And I just kind of go back and forth, feeling really inspired and then feeling like I'm out of ideas. And I don't know what happened, man, but about, I guess maybe 5, 6 years ago, I just started wanting to write and record more than ever. And that's exactly what I've been doing. I have so much recorded that no one's heard, albums of material sitting around. And but the reason I like having that problem is now I'm picking and choosing for my album instead of just recording 10 songs and putting it out.
Right.
And I feel things are stronger that way. And as the more I do it, the more exciting it gets. So it just keeps feeding myself to want to write more and record more and keep playing.
Yeah.
And I really don't know why, but I have no lack of drive for it these days. I just really enjoy it. I love, in the morning I get up and I try to just get out to the studio as soon as I can, and just can't wait to work.
Uh-huh. Do you record a lot of the time? Do you do all the drum parts and the bass parts on your initial recordings?
I always have in the past, and used other drummers for the actual albums, but last album I actually played drums on the album, and this new album I'm playing drums on it too.
On every song?
Yeah, I'm playing everything.
Oh, okay.
On all of the new songs, and I can't explain exactly what I mean by that yet because of an announcement that hasn't been made. But on all new songs recording, I'm playing drums on.
Uh-huh. And then you lay down the bass tracks too?
Yeah, I lay down everything.
So how do you start? Like, you get up in the morning and you feel inspired. What do? Do you go out in the studio and lay down a drum part first and then play to it? Or do you have a guitar idea and then you got to try to line up a drum track with it, or what?
Well, usually I'll have some kind of musical idea in my head that I can play on guitar to a click track, just so I can keep up with parts. Like, this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is where that little accent goes, this is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I work out the song thoroughly before anything else gets put down. Then I work on a keeper drum track, and then I redo everything on top of the keeper drum track.
Uh-huh. Okay. I see. So you got your drums all mic'd up, ready to go all the time, right?
Well, actually, all I'm doing is I'm playing Roland drums, and I'm triggering. So I can change drum kits, with the click of a button. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you using anything like Easy Drummer or any of that kind of thing?
I am. I'm using Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer both. I love the tune tracks.
Yeah. And so you're using the Roland kit to trigger those things.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I use Easy Drummer, but I don't have a kit, and I've been thinking about it. And I have a 15-year-old son that's a drummer, and we do not currently have a drum set. So, well, he's really a piano player, but he plays a lot of percussion. And I've been thinking a lot about, well, should I get an acoustic kit like I would like to, or should I get an electronic kit so that we can use Easy Drummer with it? And so I'm kind of torn right now.
Well, the good thing about an electronic kit is you can play a song, and unlike when you're doing acoustic drums, if there was one tiny little spot where it would normally cause either you have to re-record or at least punch in, when you're dealing with the MIDI world, you don't have to punch. You can just shift visually and fix it. And yes, that is cheating a little bit, but it is also just standard album making these days, because I'd rather keep a take that is 99% right with the right feel, than you know what I mean, than lose it over something like that. So that's the reason I am going the MIDI route, because I'm not a good enough drummer to lay down 15 takes a day to try to get it right with acoustic drums, you know.
Right, because then you're sitting there, you know, you're all stressed out. Okay, I have to do it perfect this time, and you're stressed,
That's
and then
right.
you mess it up because you're all stressed.
And then say you put down parts on it afterwards, and you know it's not exactly the perfect drum part after all, because it's not really following along all the emotion of what got put down on it.
Right.
So working within the MIDI world gives you a lot more options, and if you do have to punch, you know, it's also not an issue of glitches and stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah. How long have you been using Superior Drummer or Easy Drummer?
Almost since it came out.
Okay.
I was using BFD for a long time, which is also very handy and cool.
What is it?
For drums? BFD.
Okay.
It's a huge. It was kind of like the main one people were using before Easy Drummer came out.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people still are using them. They have their own libraries of great sounds and stuff too. It's a fantastic program.
Yeah.
I used BFD until Easy Drummer came out, and I bought Easy Drummer just for the sake of like maybe doing some little demo things a little easier, because BFD is not quite as easy to use as Easy Drummer.
Uh-huh.
So I started using Easy Drummer, and then I went ahead and got Superior Drummer so that I could start playing, and plus Superior Drummer has some more parameters that Easy Drummer doesn't have. Superior Drummer had a lot more micings, a lot more ambient mic settings, and you know, bottom snare and all kinds of things that a lot of the Easy Drummer kits don't give you.
I
So
see. Okay.
I started using Superior Drummer so I could use it more legitimately on an album. And then Easy Drummer 2 came out, which still doesn't have all the options of Superior Drummer as far as a lot of bottom miking and stuff, but the new sounds and the samples associated with Easy Drummer 2 are just so good that I find myself using both Superior Drummer and Easy Drummer 2 now on the new stuff I'm doing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff, that's for sure. Do you know anybody from the company? Have you ever spoken with them?
Just through email, I talked to Rick, who is, you know, their main guy.
Yeah.
And he is super, super nice and been massively helpful.
Yeah.
And just love the company, love what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually lives here in the Chicago suburbs. So we haven't hooked up. We've threatened to, but we haven't yet, but we will sooner or later.
Cool.
So hey, do you I wonder, do you go through a lot of gear? Do you buy and sell stuff? Do you have a lot of stuff sitting around you want to get rid of by any chance?
I don't really have a lot of stuff to get rid of. I go through a lot of guitars, and I do literally sometimes find myself stepping over guitars in laying in a corner because there's no place left to put them. And
right.
And when things get like that, I'll go on a little run and sell 3 or 4 on eBay. A lot of times I've even done things where I'll let people choose some kind of whatever they would like a donation to go to, and I'll give a percentage of it to donate to their cause, and then I'll use the rest to do a donation of my own.
Sure.
And then I do. So I occasionally do that, and I'll go through a spurt of 3 or 4 on eBay, but it's been a little while since I've sold one, and I am stepping over guitars again. So it'll probably happen again pretty soon.
So I do, besides Guitar World, I do some writing for a website called Reverb.com. Are you familiar with Reverb?
I've heard of, but not really spent much anytime looking into it.
Reverb is sort of like an eBay for musical instruments.
Right.
And they have about 3 million site visitors per month buying and selling guitars. They do some editorial stuff, some interviews and different things.
Right.
But if you would be interested, perhaps as part of a promotional thing when your new albums are out, maybe we could put together some sort of a little, a charitable sale, kind of a storefront thing or something.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That because that would help you promote the records, and you get the album, the instruments out there, and support some charities if that's what you want to do with them, and it'd be some good promo.
Not only that, I think Gibson has offered to make affordable to us some of their nicer guitars in the $4,000 or $5,000 range. We're going to get a super good deal on a couple, and that we wanted to use for some promotion too. So that could be good, because it would be, I mean, super nice Les Pauls if we did that with it. That would be killer.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be very happy to work with you on that, putting it together.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, let me send you a link just to remind you. You can just go take a look at reverb.com, check it out. They're based here in Chicago, but they've got, people all over the world buying and selling instruments to each other. So
I've actually I remember looking at it and not being able to figure out how people had a page of instruments like that, because I've seen some promotions.
Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out how that happens. So to know that you know how to make that happen, that's great.
Yeah, I could, help you set that up. So
cool.
That'd be really cool. You want to talk about it like in a few weeks after you get back from the King's X dates and you finish up your album?
Yeah, that'd be good. That way we'd have a better idea of time frame and stuff. That'd be cool.
Okay, sounds good. I'll check in with you like toward the end of March or something.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, Ty, thank you so much for your time. We do need a couple pictures or a picture of you with a guitar, something current. I sent you and both your manager, Alex, an email earlier today just saying, can you please send a picture or a couple pictures over to Jeff Kitts at Guitar World?
Okay.
You got something current with a guitar in your hand?
I've got a couple of live shots within the last year and a half or so, but I don't have any studio shots. Is that okay?
Well, yeah, I guess they'll make do with what you got as long as they're, good shots,
Oh, they're good shots. They're real good shots.
Yeah.
One of them, I've got a couple that have never been used, so let me dig through them. The only thing that I need is I've been given free permission to use these for magazines like this, as long as photo credit is given. Is that okay?
Probably. So I actually emailed you Jeff's email address, and so could you send them to him and just explain that to him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. All right, Ty, hey, man, it's been wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm here.
Let's talk again toward the end of March and set something up for a promo.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.
Okay, man. Take care.
All right, you too. See ya.
All right. Bye.